Girls. What was the best flirting technique someone did to you? I remember when I was a cashier, some pretty attractive guy came into the store on rollerblades asking to return something. Interaction was pretty short, but it was pretty obvious. Strong eye contact was first thing. He asked me one or two questions, trying to get to know more about me. I wasn't really interested because I was with someone, so I just indulged the questions to be polite. As I completed the form to let him return this item, the last thing required was his phone number. Then teasingly, "The store doesn't really need that. You're asking because you want my number, don't you?" I chuckled and showed him the line for his phone number. He signed his number and said, "Well, hopefully you call me anyway," and rolled out the store. Yes, it's often annoying when people flirt with the cashiers or waitstaff of any customer-facing position, but that's because you're not giving them a choice. They have to be nice to you. This guy's approach wasn't awkward. It was just happy, all smiles. He expressed interest but didn't put pressure or linger. The suggestion was there that he was interested in flirty eye contact, but the way everything was phrased left me with options to say yes or no or just ignore, which is exactly what I did. I suppose it's a little hard to break down the components that made it good flirting. I'll try. Eye contact. Looked me directly in the eyes, but not for an amount of time that was creepy. It didn't feel like a staring contest or like he was checking me out. He was smiling the whole time. He was a happy person from the looks of it, so the interaction was already easier. He seemed friendly in his posture and facial expression. Confidence. Talking was no big deal, just a happy person returning an item and leaving. Verbal confirmation that he was flirting. Eye contact alone isn't always going to be a great judge. Sometimes you just assume that friendly people are friendly. It wasn't subtle or overt. The attitude was just like, flirting a bit. He was flirting with someone age appropriate. What he said wasn't overly desperate. That's the smoothest flirting experience I've had without already being in a relationship with someone. The best flirting while already in a relationship? My boyfriend at the time went to a hardware store. They sell the best lollipops at the checkout, so I'd always get one. One time he came home and surprised me with one. "Want something sweet?" Shows me a lollipop. "Yes." "I want some sugar first." Taps his lips. Surprising with a lollipop? That's the kind of sweet talk that keeps a relationship rolling. Story 2. My former fiancé, he passed away, went to 100% cheesy pickup lines, but in the goofiest way. He was nervous and I guess had no clue what to say, so he went for broke. Lol. He went from "hello, how are you" to a cheesy dad joke. "Why couldn't the bicycle stand up on its own?" To the cheesy pickup lines, taps pockets like he's looking for something. I lost my number. "Can I have yours?" Although I could tell he was nervous, he had an air of confidence that I was drawn to, and he had a great smile. And yes, the punchline to the terrible joke is it was too tired. Since he was taken away from me, I always refer to him as my former fiancé. I never say ex-fiancé because to me, that sounds like we broke up. That absolutely did not happen. It must have been a tireless flirt with those lines. Story 3. In college, my best friend was this guy that I had a flirty relationship with, but we were both dating other people. We lived in the same buildings as each other freshman to junior year and spent a lot of time together, but again, we were with other people. Freshman year, we were watching a movie together and this couple had an epic kiss in the rain, and I offhandedly mentioned I thought it was so romantic. Senior year rolls around and we're both finally single. We were walking home from a party. It started raining and he just kind of grabbed me and kissed me. He mentioned he thought about what I said anytime it rained. We had a very intense relationship for about a year and then it kind of ended in disaster, and we haven't spoken since. Lol. Story 4. Many years ago, I had a job at a florist where the owner did something quite unethical. He hired mostly Mexican girls who were in the United States to learn English. They attended school, but at the florist, they were paid less than the minimum wage. Despite the shady nature of the situation, I enjoyed working with these girls. We would create little games to help each other learn. I practiced my Spanish, and they worked on their English. One day, a Latino man walked into the shop, and one of the girls assisted him. He wanted to buy a bouquet for someone he liked, so she guided him around the store, showing him what she thought were the best flowers. After she had wrapped the bouquet beautifully for him, he paid for his purchase. But then, in a move that caught me completely by surprise, he wrote his phone number on the receipt and handed it to her. It was such a smooth gesture. The girl, however, was unfazed. She reacted as if this was a normal occurrence, saying, "Oh, men do this where I'm from. They don't do that here." I was taken aback and replied, "No, they don't." Story 5. We were classmates in college, and one morning I called him on my way to school. I lived over an hour away and we usually called and chatted while I drove. I complained about a headache. When I got to school, he was there with ibuprofen, water, and one of those yogurt parfait thingies. He also made a comment once about my eyeliner running out, and he brought one to school the next day. Found out from his brother after we started dating that he had spent like an hour at the store asking the makeup employees for the right one, since he had no idea what an eyeliner pen was. We've been married for 4 years now and he's still a total sweetheart. To clarify to those saying this could be creepy behavior, it definitely could be in a different situation. I don't recommend doing this with someone you don't have a good base with. If you like to do nice things for people, don't make it seem like you expect anything in return. We already had a pretty solid friendship and he was, and still is, honestly the best friend I'd ever had. He never made any advances on me or put any pressure in our relationship. I used to wonder if he was just nice or if he actually liked me. That's how good he was at being chill. I ended up confessing my feelings to him a few months later. I come from a mistreating family, so having him be there for me, listen to me, respect my boundaries, etc., was mind-blowing. He's been a great partner and I'm very thankful for people like him. It's not every day you hear about someone spending an hour at the store just to get the right makeup product for someone they care about. The fact that they've been married for 4 years and he's still a total sweetheart, that's the kind of love that legends are made of. Story 6. This happened just as my current boyfriend and I got back into contact, after a long stint of us being both off each other's radar after a dip from high school and moved on to college. He and I had been best friends already throughout high school for a fair amount of time, before I went off to college, and I'd always remembered him as being the shy, quiet, timid type. Shortly after I got out of a volatile relationship back in 13, he slid back into my life and hit me with a one-liner that still catches me off guard to this day. Following a much-needed catch-up sesh, he decides to shatter the rapidly approaching awkward silence while managing to recapture the spark of the conversation by dropping an unexpected nuke. He says, "So I'm single now." The outright boldness and complete randomness of the statement alone was enough to both simultaneously shock and impress me. Been together for 6 years, going on 7 in July. Story 7. I'm not a girl, but my girlfriend is. And she just about did the smoothest thing on me during our first get-together over some drinks. We were both unsure whether or not it was a date or just people chilling at a bar getting to know each other. She just moved into town and was looking for some company, and I liked her attitude. Over the course of the evening, it became clear that we were at least a bit interested, but she was getting really hammered. Being the gentleman I am, I decided not to try anything. However, then she started rubbing my foot, asking whether I liked her feet, and I was like, yes, can I have one? She literally gave me one of her shoes and said, I'll pick that one up later this week at your place. I got up and left. She's currently giggling next to me as we just woke up. Wonderful lady. Story 8. A few years ago, I was sitting on a bench in the city center. I'm an American living in the UK. There was a guy walking. I could sense him looking at me. We briefly locked eyes for a sec, but I turned and stared forward. He walks past me a few steps, stops, turns to me, stares down and says, Cheer up, love. You're beautiful. Gives me a cheeky smile and just locks eyes with me for a sec, and says nothing and walks away. I was about to melt in the seat, but that was it. It sounds silly, but the way it played out struck a really deep chord with me. I've never dated anyone that has done anything to get my heart racing like that. So random. He wasn't spectacular looking, but the whole ordeal made him so much more attractive than any hot guy walking down the street. He did it so flawlessly, and so confident, and it wasn't slimy or rude. It was very endearing and genuine. That guy will be forever etched in my memory. Story 9. A friend of mine in college was over 6 feet tall, whereas I'm 5'2". I forget he asked me to meet him in the library for help or if we ran into each other there, but he said he couldn't figure out one of the computer search systems. This was circa 1997, so they were still pretty clunky. I agreed to show him how to use it, and as he took a seat in front of a computer, he casually said, if we were dating and I wanted to kiss you, I could just sit down and it'd be the perfect height. Because I was stupidly fixated on a mutual friend of ours at the time, I didn't go for it. My reply was that this was the wrong set of computers and the computers he needed were over there, which was true. And we went to those computers, I helped him out, and we were never awkward after that. I thought about this a lot over the years. He kept it very casual, so it wasn't a big deal and didn't feel like he was putting me on the spot. The way he worded it, I didn't actually have to reject him outright. I was able to just talk past it. To this day, I appreciate that it was smooth but not uncomfortable. Of any of the flirting I've been on the receiving end of, that was my favorite, and I wish I'd given him a chance. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos like this. Story 10. I don't know if it's the best, but it's definitely the most memorable. When I was at the gym and had been honestly taking things to the extreme for a while and not listening to my body, I suddenly got very dizzy and my eyes became white. On the realization that I was about to pass out, I slowly lowered myself down to the floor. One of the guys working out came swooping in to grab me and prevent my head from hitting the floor. He laid me down and tried to get me to remain conscious, asking me all sorts of questions that required some concentration, like what day of the week it is and who is the president. When he saw that I was okay and recovering, his questions started getting flirty. What's my name? What's my number? Now that he's become my knight in shining armor, can he take me out on a date sometime? It really made me laugh and feel better just by him being so lighthearted about it. He got my number. Lightheaded to lighthearted. Story 11. I was about a year out of a bad divorce. Just finished a night shift. Decided I wanted to take my mom out to lunch. My mom looks young and she's pretty cool. We're sitting in a food court eating and I noticed this really pretty young lady just staring at me. I think she was daydreaming. I couldn't tell because it was a complete pan stare. I said, "Mom, there's this gorgeous chick sitting behind you staring at me." "Mom, well, why don't you go talk to her?" Being a smart one and not meaning it seriously at all. Me, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Walked up to her and, in no uncertain terms, told her she's beautiful. I'd like to get to know her, and if things work out, I'd like to marry her. She took my number and called me that evening. She said that's the most brutally honest anyone has ever been with her. We've been married 16 years now. Story 12. We were 17 from the same high school and had been flirting over texts for a while. To be honest, I didn't know if I wanted to date him, but he was really sweet all the time and I liked his attention, I guess. Anyway, he asked me on a date to go ice skating. He was so hopeful I just couldn't say no. We had previously talked about romantic movie scenarios, and I foolishly told him that I would kiss him if it started snowing the night of the ice skating, knowing damn well the chance of snow at the time was highly unlikely. Fast forward to me and him ice skating a few days later, without a cloud in the night sky. He stopped me at the side of the ice field under the light of an old school gas lamp and reached in his pocket and threw up white paper confetti like we just won the Super Bowl. Cutest thing ever. Kissed him gladly, and we ended up dating for a few years. He had sat the day before and made confetti out of printer paper because he knew it wasn't going to snow. That was the romantic movie scenario of my life. Story 13. Not flirting. We're both flirty by nature and had both recently sworn off romantic relationships. We'd gone to high school together but weren't well acquainted, just ended up being Facebook friends. I wanted to go kayaking but couldn't get them on my roof myself. Put it out there. He comes over. Loads up my car, we spend weeks kayaking and just hanging out, being friends. Nothing flirty or romantic about it. One day he bought me lunch and I was suspicious that maybe this was a date, but I didn't want to ruin things so I didn't bring it up. But I got used to having him around and didn't really want him to leave, but my condo wasn't big enough for the both of us. So then we bought a house together. Then he asked me to marry him. And I was all, "You're my fiancé. I didn't even know you were my boyfriend." Been married a little over a year. Our baby is due in the next couple weeks. Story 14. Got me a job as his boss. He was also just very kind and attentive. Let me be me. I had been in a horrible relationship for 6 years, where he just constantly cheated on me and made me feel like I was completely worthless, needed meds, etc. My current partner just saw me, just made an effort to make me feel safe and wanted. Took an interest in my interests. Was always a gentleman with a really kind nature, very supportive. Pretty simple stuff, really. Sometimes simple is best. Our friendship developed more after we started working together, and it just kind of happened. It helped that we clicked and had a lot in common. We just had our first child together, a week before our 5-year anniversary, and finished building a house the year before. We aren't huge in the whole marriage thing, mainly because of cost. Story 15. Not a girl, but I was raised by only women and refined my craft over time. The key is to be original. First, take a weird location for a date. Example, a Denny's bathroom. Then have a unique waiter or friend or anyone that isn't the two of you. Example, a rat in a tuxedo that only speaks Russian. Finally, use a commonality as something you can do after the date. Example, movies. Go take them to a store to pick out a movie. So unlike those dumb pickup lines, now you have at least 3 things to continue to talk about so you can learn more about the other person. The big thing is the first 2 points have to be something no one's ever done before. It's the attention getter. The last one is a legitimate idea to show you actually do want to go on a date. P.S. Some other ideas if you can't think of any. An appliance section of a store near close. The place employees smoke at behind a store. A local hardware store where the old man that owns the place doesn't say a word to you. Inside a lift, but one of you has to sit up front with the driver awkwardly. Story 16. My late husband came up to me on the dance floor. "Hi, I'm Michael." Then danced, went away, came back, rinse and repeat. Before the night ended, he asked me out for the next day. His theory, strike while the iron is hot. I liked that the day was kayaking, an activity with plenty of opportunity for conversation. He later told me that it was his only line and was very successful. If I had a chance, it was at hello. I picked up chicks at music, queuing for food. I shudder to think. His one concern was keeping his mouth shut. He was always writing checks he couldn't cash. That is also how his nose was broken. That and getting over jealousy. That, apparently, was a hard lesson. Story 17. Ugh. There was this one dude who I enjoyed teasing a lot back in high school. He had a class right before me, so we'd always see each other as he left the class and I entered. Anyway, one day I was waiting outside his class because they were taking a test and we were in the middle of turning their materials in. Out he came, instantly seeing me leaning by the door, respectfully waiting outside with the rest of my class. Instead of saying hi, he just smirked and said, "That's cute. Waiting outside of my class to see me, huh?" I hadn't liked him romantically then, but I got flustered and blushed anyway. Cue indignant protests that only made him chuckle. Turns out he had a romantic feeling towards me at the time and I soon followed suit. He's my boyfriend now. Love the weirdo to bits. Story 18. I'm super late to the party, but I was telling off this schmuck guy for catcalling the bartender. I told him, I'm pretty sure she has a name, and I'm positive it's not mommy or baby. Excuse me, what's your name? Oh, look at that, it's Brittany, which, my now fiance, who happened to be schmuck guy's coworker, it was as sick of this guy as I was. Shoved him back in his chair so he could look me in the eyes and say, whoa, hold on. You're beautiful. I was able to segue that into a justification of what I was saying. I told the schmuck, look, see that? There's a way to compliment a woman, and it isn't by calling her mommy. No, schmuck was not Latino, white as hell, or baby. So thank you for the compliment, sir. I'm Ruby. What's your name? And the rest, as they say, is history. Exactly 3 weeks after that night, I decided to move from California to Dallas, Texas. I was there for work. And here we are 4.5 years later with a 2-year-old son and his 7-year-old daughter who calls me mommy by her own choice. It's a good life. Story 19. Literally, this happened yesterday. So I was at work, grocery store, and this customer is a regular. I see him often, and he's always pretty nice to me. I often got flirty vibes from him, but he never really said anything outright. Yesterday around 10 p.m. I was watching self-checkout and he showed up. He asked for my assistance with the machine. I really wasn't actually working, and he told me I was the most beautiful woman he has ever seen. Nobody has ever told me such a thing straight up like that as a cold approach kind of thing. I literally was giddy. He was super cute and I felt super awesome. Today I saw him again when I was working and gave him my phone number. Still waiting for a text, but hopefully soon. Well, if you like these stories, here's more. YouTube thinks you're going to love this. Catch you in that video.